The story of ancient Egypt often feels like a tale of mighty pharaohs, towering monuments, and eternal dynasties shaped by men. But hidden beneath the sands, behind the colossal statues and golden crowns, lies a truth history rarely tells. Egypt was not simply a kingdom of kings. It was a land shaped, defended, and even ruled by extraordinary queens whose power rivaled the greatest pharaohs. Their names, their triumphs, and their legacies were deliberately erased, rewritten, or overshadowed. Yet their influence still echoes through temples, tombs, and forgotten scrolls. Today, on the royal era, their voices rise again. The story begins long before the famous queens you might know, before Cleopatra, before Nefertiti, and even before Hatshepsut. There were women who shaped Egypt from the moment civilization first blossomed along the Nile. Egypt was unique in the ancient world. While Greece, Rome, and Mesopotamia denied women political authority, Egypt allowed them to inherit property, file lawsuits, divorce husbands, and even rule the kingdom. Power was not denied to them. It simply waited for those strong enough to seize it. One of the earliest women to leave her mark was Nefertiti. She lived over 5,000 years ago, during the First Dynasty, a time when Egypt was still discovering itself. Her husband, King Jer, died suddenly, leaving behind an infant son too young to rule. Instead of stepping aside, Nefertiti took command. She ruled in her son's name, controlling the army, treasury, priesthood, and state administration. She was not a caretaker. She was a sovereign. Evidence of her authority is etched in stone plaques bearing her name inside a royal sarek, the symbol reserved only for kings. Her tomb at Abydos is enormous, surrounded by dozens of subsidiary burials reserved for individuals of high honor. No other queen in this era received such treatment. Her burial resembled that of a pharaoh, and it suggests that she may not simply have ruled as regent, but may have been recognized as the first female pharaoh in history. Centuries later, another queen rose to prominence. Sobekneferu. When the 12th dynasty collapsed without a male heir, she ascended the throne. Her reign was short, but revolutionary. Sobekneferu took the full royal titles of a king and reshaped them to fit her femininity. She wore the crown, commanded the priesthood, and oversaw massive architectural projects, including expansions to the labyrinth at Khufu. She inherited a kingdom at the brink of collapse and restored stability. Her reign marked the end of one dynasty and inspired the beginning of another. Yet for thousands of years, her name vanished from king lists, erased by scribes who were uncomfortable with the idea of a woman ruling in her own right. But perhaps no queen shaped Egypt's destiny more than Hatshepsut. Her rise was not just remarkable, it was unprecedented. When her husband Thutmose II died, his infant son was next in line. Yet Egypt needed more than a child to lead. Hatshepsut stepped forward as regent, but she would not remain in the shadows. She transformed herself through ceremony, ritual, and political mastery into a full pharaoh. She wore the false beard and royal regalia not because she denied her womanhood, but because she understood the symbolic language of power. Egypt needed a king, so she became one. Her reign was a golden age. She launched ambitious construction projects, commissioned the breathtaking temple of Deir el-Bahari, reopened trade with the mysterious land of Punt, and transformed Egypt from a recovering kingdom into a thriving empire. Her success was so absolute that after her death, her stepson Thutmose III attempted to erase her memory. Her statues were smashed, her name chiseled out, and her royal legacy nearly vanished. But history endures where stone fails. Today, the greatness of Hatshepsut stands undeniable. Another powerful queen ruled centuries later, the great royal wife of Ahhotep III. She was not only a queen but a political force, capable of shaping diplomacy across continents. Foreign kings addressed her directly, acknowledging her authority as equal to her husband. She advised Amenhotep III during Egypt's most prosperous age, and continued to wield immense influence during the early reign of her son Akhenaten. Queen Tai was the architect of royal strategy, religious policy, and international alliances. Though not a pharaoh, she was a ruler in every sense. Her name feared and respected from Babylon to Nubia. During this era of change emerged Nefertiti, one of history's most iconic figures. Her face survives in the limestone bust discovered in Amarna, yet her true power remains far greater than her beauty. She was not the quiet, graceful queen that later centuries imagined. Nefertiti was a ruler, a co-pharaoh, and possibly even a sole monarch after Akhenaten's death. She appeared in reliefs smiting enemies, an image previously reserved only for kings. She performed rituals, offered sacrifices, and commanded religious transformation. The Amarna Revolution, often credited solely to Akhenaten, was in truth shaped and executed by Nefertiti herself. Some scholars argue she may have ruled as Nefertiti, possibly even as Smenkhare, adopting a masculine throne name just as Hatshepsut had done. Her disappearance remains a mystery, but her legacy remains carved in sandstone, forever intertwined with Egypt's most radical religious movement. As dynasties rose and fell, Egypt saw more queens step forward when the throne needed them most. Queen Ahhotep, mother of Ahmose, rallied the armies of Thebes during the War of Liberation against the Hyksos. At a time when the royal line risked extinction, she became the backbone of resistance. She received golden flies of valor, Egypt's highest military honor, proving she was not merely royal blood, but a battlefield leader whose courage shaped the future of the kingdom. Yet even these powerful women did not prepare the world for Cleopatra VII. Her name is often reduced to romance and scandal, but the truth is far more extraordinary. Cleopatra was the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt, the final guardian of a 3,000-year civilization. She spoke 9 languages, commanded armies, negotiated with empires, and outmaneuvered Roman politicians in an age when a single mistake meant death. She inherited a kingdom drowning in debt and corruption. She restored its economy, reformed its currency, and stabilized its borders. Her alliances with Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony were not acts of seduction, but political strategy in a world where Rome consumed nations without hesitation. Rome feared Cleopatra because she defied every expectation. She was intelligent, charismatic, and unyielding. She did not bend, even when facing the might of Octavian. Her death marked more than the end of her dynasty. It marked the end of independent Egypt itself. With Cleopatra's final breath, the age of pharaohs faded into history. But beyond these famous queens, countless others shaped Egypt, silently but powerfully. Priestesses, administrators, royal women, and regents all contributed to the kingdom's survival. Queens like Enki-Sinnamen, who tried desperately to save Egypt after Tutankhamun's death. Queens like Nitocris, whose legend whispers of rebellion and revenge. Queens like Tausret, who ruled as pharaoh before Egypt descended into civil war. Each one carved her own chapter into the vast tapestry of the Nile. What makes ancient Egypt remarkable is not only that these women existed, but that the civilization allowed them to rise. The Egyptians believed power came from the gods, and the gods did not restrict authority to men alone. Female deities like Isis, Hathor, and Sekhmet embodied creation, destruction, and sovereignty. Their earthly reflections, the queens, inherited not just titles, but divine authority. They were not ornaments beside kings. They were pillars of the realm. When Egypt was strong, queens strengthened it further. When Egypt faltered, queens saved it. Their names were forgotten because later civilizations refused to accept women in power. Greek historians dismissed them, Roman writers vilified them, and medieval scholars ignored them. But archaeology restores what memory loses. Every statue recovered, every inscription deciphered, every tomb unearthed reveals the truth. These queens were builders of temples, commanders of armies, shapers of diplomacy, mothers of dynasties, and rulers of one of the greatest civilizations in human history. Their legacy is not merely political, but symbolic. They prove that leadership is not bound by gender, but by ability. They show that courage can be born in palaces or battlefields. And they remind us that history is often written not by the powerful, but by those who choose which stories survive. Today, as we uncover their forgotten voices, the forgotten queens of ancient Egypt rise again from the silence of centuries. Their power echoes through broken columns and crumbling stone. Their stories challenge every assumption about the ancient world, and their legacies endure as testament to the truth that Egypt was not merely a land of kings. It was a civilization shaped by women strong enough to rule. This is their story. This is their legacy. And on the royal era, their truth finally returns to the light.